So, good morning, everyone. My name is Claire Mattingly, and I'm a celebrant of life, as are all of you for being here today. And that's how I would normally start one of my services, introducing myself and making everyone feel welcome, that we're all there together. No one is higher than anyone else or better than anyone else. We're all just joining as a group to celebrate the life of the person that you loved. Now, I did a service recently at a local church, Unitarian church, and where they invite people to come and speak about, all spiritual things and spiritual disciplines and different beliefs. They're very open and honor everyone's beliefs. And it was kind of difficult to choose a subject. Obviously, I usually take funerals and I have a script and we're talking about someone specific. So actually addressing a congregation with something other than that was a little bit daunting. But I thought it might be interesting if I spoke about, what I've actually learned in the course of being a funeral celebrant, and also what being spiritual, means to me. What is it about? How do I connect to my God, or my source of life? Um, Everybody will have different views on that, what they believe in, whether there is a God, whether it's something else, whether it's a powerful force of the universe, and all of these things. So we talked about, how do we hold the light in difficult times, in times of grief and sadness, but also just generally difficult times, through life. How do we maintain that light and that spark within us that that helps us go on, that helps us live our lives even after we have had a great loss, whether that be a person, a job, a relationship, a home, whatever it is. How do we get the courage and the strength to move on with life and do what we need to do? Um, and different people will have different ways of harnessing that strength. Um, but for me personally, it's always been about spirits, of a higher presence, a connection to source, wherever we all came from, however the world was made, why are we all here. I do believe that there is a connection to a greater power. Not a man in the sky with a beard, but we're part of something much bigger than what we see here in the here and now on the earth, and in this particular life we're living right now. Um, I talked about what I have found working as a celebrant and working with death on a daily basis is that 99%, I think I can safely say, of the people that and the families that I work with um, all have quite a similar view, in the sense that we believe when our loved ones pass that they go on somewhere else, that energy. And some people have even seen it if they've been very close to their loved ones, I mean, geographically in the same room as they've passed over and they've left their body. Anyone that's experienced that will usually say that they could feel their energy leaving their body and moving on. And there's an old wives' tale, about opening a window when someone passes, to let their soul out. And a lot of people instinctively do that and have spoken of that. So there is this strongly held belief, even if people aren't religious, and most people aren't these days, most of the people I deal with anyway, I'm only talking from my experience. That may be very different to yours. But for the people and the families I work with, that is their experience, that they feel the essence of the person they love, their energy, um, their soul, their spirit has gone on somewhere else. And we don't all know where that is. Some of us have ideas of what we like it to be, and perhaps that's how it is. Perhaps it is however we want it to be. But it gives people a lot of comfort. Um, and for, the sheer numbers of people that believe that, I think there's got to be something in it, right? To me, it just makes sense. It's always made sense. My whole life, I just always felt a connection, that there was something more, that, what a waste if these souls that we have just, go nowhere after we die. It doesn't make any sense to me. Always, you know, um, something has to happen to it. But that's just my view. But that's how I do my job. That's how I can work, doing what I do, um, being with families that have experienced great loss, and that are grieving. Some people think it might be a very depressing thing to do, and that it must be very difficult. And people always say that to me. But, actually, for me, I don't find it difficult particularly. I love it because I want to help people, and I feel like I have the skills to be able to do that, to provide comfort and assistance, and to help them put together a really good service. um, that, that's what my skills are, to be able to do that. But I don't find it sad. I find elements of it sad, and the stories can be sad depending on how someone has passed. um, but generally speaking, most families find it a very, joyful experience, when we're sitting together. Yes, of course, that they're sad, and they're upset, um, and usually they might be dreading the whole, meeting and experience of having to talk about it and plan the funeral. Um, but again, the majority of people are pleasantly surprised, because it always turns into such a heartwarming, uplifting meeting when we're talking about the person you love, and you're telling me all about them and sharing all these beautiful memories. There's always lots of laughter and, humor, and, remembering all those beautiful things, those special moments. And most people find it very cathartic and therapeutic. And I think, if I can help do that, then, that just makes me very happy that I'm doing something useful with my life. Um, but going back to the service that I took, I'm explaining all of this, because some people find it interesting. It's a very strange job, to be doing, organising funerals and taking funerals for a living. So people are always, very curious. But then we went on to talk about, well, what place does religion have? If the majority of people say they aren't religious, but they're spiritual. But then also, a lot of people that I work with, for instance, like to have the Lord's Prayer in the funeral, even if they've not been to church for years and years and years. They would say, categorically say, I'm not religious, but they still ask for the Lord's Prayer. And at first I thought, God, what's all this about? Why does everyone want the Lord's Prayer? It's so strange. If you say you're adamant you're not religious, but you want the Lord's Prayer. But what I found is that it's because it's very comforting to people. It's something that, a lot of us have learned, from a very young age. We learn it at school or Sunday school. It's something that stays with you. It's something that we remember. The words stay with you because you sort of memorize it as a kid. So, and instantly it's something you can grab. It's something that you can bring to mind straight away, that provides comfort, because, for some people it might be their only link to God, their only, whatever they conceive that to be, their only link to source, to the greater power. Just saying those words of the Lord's Prayer opens something spiritual in them, and to honor the person that they loved, when they're imagining them going on to another place, their energy, their essence, their soul. It's a very good vehicle for that. And I thought about the words of the Lord's Prayer. Some people think them, old-fashioned. That's why we don't go to church anymore, because, largely, most of us would say, it's slightly, well, not slightly, but, most people would say to me, it's irrelevant these days. The language used, the messages, the messages can be very helpful, but the language is just not how we live today. So again, that brings us back to the language of the Lord's Prayer. It's something we can easily remember, but how is it relevant? What does it even mean? Um, so I had a little study, a little think about what the Lord's Prayer actually means, and some of the my friends, we have these spiritual discussions. We have a group that meets every Sunday, and we were talking about this. What does it really mean? Can we look at those words and make it something that's relevant to us? We can get very caught up by language and words, and they can be jarring. And if there's something that doesn't resonate with us, it immediately jars, but we lose the usefulness of it. So there are probably a million prayers, that are out there that would resonate more in their actual words than the Lord's Prayer does for me. But can I grasp them? Can I get them into my mind at the right moment when I'm feeling really low, or I need to connect to spirit when I need some hope and I need some strength? Can I just grasp those random affirmations and prayers with other words? No, mine goes blank. I can't think of a single useful thing to say. Can I remember the Lord's Prayer in a second? Absolutely, because it's something I grew up with, it's something I memorized, and it will just be with me forever. It's something I can get to immediately, and I know all the words, as do most people. So, what if we could make the words into something that resonates with us to give it even greater meaning than it already has? So, breaking it down, Our Father, which could also mean the ultimate source of all life. Our Father, the ultimate source of all life, who art in heaven, where that source resides. The ultimate source of life and where that source resides. Hallowed be thy name. Hallowed be thy name. The source is sacred and divine. That source is sacred. Thy kingdom come. What does that mean? Create heaven on earth. We can create heaven here on earth in our everyday life, in the way that we live and the way that we treat people. We can create that here. Thy will be done. Thy will be done. Fulfill our calling, maybe, our life purpose. Thy will, the source's will, the source's plan for us in this lifetime, that be done. Fulfilling our calling, fulfilling our life purpose. On earth as it is in heaven, strive to fulfill that purpose here on heaven and now. So not only is it source's will, but that we strive to fulfill it. We strive to fulfill our purpose. Give us this day our daily bread. Give us this day our daily bread. Our daily bread, food, perhaps for mind, body and soul, that we feed our mind, body and soul good things, that we feed our body healthy food, that we feed our mind and our soul healthy things. So, perhaps monitoring what we watch on television, what news we listen to. Are we going to be listening to really, negative, depressing news, which is going to make us very negative and depressed? Or are we listening to uplifting things? Are we going out in nature? Are we feeding our soul with the glory of nature and the beautiful things that are happening in the world and the positive things that are happening? Choosing what we feed our mind, body, and soul. Give us today our daily bread. And forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. So forgive ourselves and forgive others. It's very soul destroying, carrying around a lot of anger and hate. And if we can, for ourselves as well as others, very hard on ourselves a lot of the time. But just imagine if we forgive ourselves more and we forgive other people. That's really, gives us can give us a lot of peace of mind. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. So help guide us on our true path. Keep us, due north, what we're here to do, that we don't get sort of sidetracked into, dramas and other people's dramas, that we don't go off our path, things that are not meant for us, things that don't feed our soul, things that are not good for our mind, body, and soul. Source, we ask you to help keep us on our path. For thine is the kingdom, and that we seek to return to our true source someday. Thine is the kingdom, source is the kingdom, and it's where we all will return someday when it's our time. We all have our time. We all got to go, and so whenever that time is, we will return to source. The power and the glory to remain humble and keep the ego in check, as our power comes from the higher source. So the power and the glory is not ours. The power and the glory is in source, or God, or whatever we see are the higher power, whatever that is to us, that comes through us, but we are not all powerful. And just to remain humble, we need support, we need help from other people, to not seek to have ultimate power, to just stay humble in life. Anything can happen to anyone at any time. We don't know when we're going to need people's help, and we should strive to help others. So perhaps that's a good way of looking at it. Remain humble, keep the ego in check, and always remember that our power comes from a higher power. It's not just about us. We are part of a network. Forever and ever, our soul dies and we live forever. That's something I've always believed. I have a true conviction about that, absolute utmost faith that our soul never dies, and we do go on, and not in this body. I may come back as someone else and have been here as many other people in the past. That's personally what I believe. I believe that our soul is eternal, that it's infinite, and it will go on forever, learning all the lessons we need to learn, coming back to life in different ways and in different aspects to learn different lessons. And that's comforting to me to know that. And amen. Amen. Everybody knows amen. And what that means is, and so it is. And so it is. So we say all these things. Our Father, the ultimate source of life, who art in heaven, that where the source resides, hallowed be thy name. The source is sacred and divine. Thy kingdom come to create heaven on earth. Thy will be done, fulfilling our calling and our life purpose. On earth as it is in heaven. Strive to fulfill that purpose here and now. Give us this day our daily bread, food for mind, body, and soul. And forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. So forgive ourselves and others, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Help guide us to our true path. For thine is the kingdom. We seek to return to the true source someday. The power and the glory. Remain humble and keep ego in check. Our power comes from a higher source. Forever and ever. Our soul never dies, and we live forever. Amen. And so it is. And I hope that's been of some use to you today. I'm here if you need my services, but also if you want to chat about anything to do with end of life ceremonies or just the Lord's Prayer, feel free to give me a call or send me a message. It's great to chat with you. Take care. Bye.